Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
So good to be here. It's been 2 years now. I can't believe it. I was here, and I just want to say thank you, Nicole, for your support and getting me here and situated, and also to Reverend Josh Reeves. You know, I have known Reverend Josh, I want to say since we were teenagers. When he first started, he was probably, I think he was 20 years old, and I think that was like 5 years ago or so. Yeah, and so what's really beautiful about this is that when he called me and told me that he was heading to Mile High Church in Denver, Colorado, I jumped for joy because that's the home church that I came from. And I grew up in Denver at Mile High Church. And what I want to just say to you is to just trust the process. Because as we know, life is always in transition and change, and with that comes loss, with that comes grief, with that comes feeling our feelings. And so it's okay wherever you are on the path, wherever you are in this process of bringing in new energy into this space. What I'm trusting and knowing is the highest and best for this community, for the perfect minister to take this place. And so I'm just going to know that with you right now. So my topic today is called, At Such a Time as This, What Are We Called to Remember? I don't know about you, but the last 2 weeks has been so intense. I'm not the only one, I hope. That eclipse, I was so glad that you brought that up. It was like the perfect thing. That eclipse was powerful for so many people. It was like our country for 2 minutes, or you could say over a span of, 3 hours, was in total unity. It was this cosmic thing happening, and I remember, I wasn't in direct sight of that, but I was watching it online, and I just cried. And I cried, I think, because it represented to me the moon and the sun, the masculine, the feminine, merging. And whether you believe in that or not, it's totally fine. It's not totally that relevant unless it means something to you. But for me, it was like the shadow. It was so representative of what's going on at our time right now in this country and in the world, of the shadow. And what's so fascinating about this to me is that the last time I was here, I talked about the shadow. And guess what I'm still talking about? Why? Because the pain pushes till the vision pulls. The founder, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith of the Agape International Center, tells us that the pain pushes until the vision pulls. Why? Because there is a vision for each one of our lives. And sometimes to get to that vision, it doesn't always seem very graceful. Sometimes we go through pain and the upheaval of, institutions and systems and things that are no longer working. And so I thought that the eclipse was so poignant this week, preparing for this talk, of really allowing us to look at the hidden and the disowned aspects of ourselves. That is what I see the shadow being, the hidden and the disowned aspects of ourselves, the parts of ourselves we don't like, the things we don't want people to know about, the blame, the shame, the victimhood, the fear, the separation, the worry, whatever it may be, the things we don't want people to know about, because if they knew those things about us, it would somehow validate or prove that we are unworthy, that we are unlovable, that we are not accepted for who and what we are. And all of it is a lie. But what we understand in this teaching is that for us to move into the direction of our vision and our dreams is that we get to uncover those things, and we get to look at them if we are so courageous and willing. This teaching, it supports us, it aids us in becoming more conscious and becoming more awake. And wouldn't you say that at this time right now in this country, it would be really nice for more of us to wake up, to not fall back asleep, to remember that we belong to one another, to remember why we're really here. And so I start this by saying there are 3 things that I always come back to in times of crisis, when someone comes to me on the street or wherever it may be and says, "What is it that you talk about?" Because I'm sure you probably have been asked that question. You're like, how do I explain this? What is it that we teach? Well, I sum it up in by three things. The first one is God is all there is. You can call that love, infinite intelligence. You can call that light. You can call that inner wisdom or knowing. But God is all there is. It is everywhere present. It is that one thing. It is the thing itself. It is the omniscience of all life. It is the omnipresence that is right here, right now. It is within me and it is within you. And each one of us are individualized expressions of that one life, which means that each one of us has a unique gift that we are here to give. And only you can do it in that way. So God is life. God is everything. That's the first thing I remember. The second thing I remember is that thought is creative. We teach that here, right? Change your thinking, change your life, right? Thought is creative. So we are co-creating with a power greater and grander and within us and all around about us, and it is that thing that is sourcing us at all times. It is that thing that we lean into when we feel discomfort and we feel fear or pain. And then we come back to, where is my focus? Where we put our attention is where our life will be. What is my focus? What am I thinking about the most? What am I inundating myself with the most? They say that the 5 people that you hang out with the most, you start to become. So you might want to look at who those 5 people are in your life that influence you the most. Really, think about that. So our pain has something to teach us. And as a spiritual leader, I think it's part of my call and my charge to always come back to principle. In the midst of crisis, in the midst of chaos, in the midst of what seems to be the whole world is falling apart and people are going mad, it's a call for us to do our own work and to realize that everything is an inside job. We say that here a lot, everything is an inside job. And so to move towards our vision for our lives, one of the first things I think we have to do, it is a must, is we have to examine our unforgiveness. Can you feel that? The room just went. All of the places within us that we have not forgiven, maybe it's yourself, maybe it's a situation or a person in your life, that it's just this thing that just keeps staying there. It's something that has been, not resolved, unresolved. It could be unresolved grief. It could be, not having the life that you wanted to live. And so just close your eyes just for a moment, and I want you to just bring into your heart that person or that situation. Let's just call it forth right now. And I want you to just feel into it. What does that feel like? Okay, and once you've got it, we're going to put that aside, and I want you to feel into the quality that you wish to experience. If this experience or situation was healed, what would that feel like within you? How would you feel? Calm, at peace? What is it? Just feel into that. And now take a deep breath. Can you remember that feeling? That's where you want to get to. And it's okay that we're not all there because we all have stuff. You can open your eyes now. There's the contrast. And contrast is such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Because it allows us to see where we want to move. And sometimes things can heal in a second. You can forgive in a moment. And we understand that forgiveness is not always about the other person. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself so that you are not held hostage by this energy any longer. It's not about condoning someone else's behavior. It's not about saying that this person did something, and I will never be able to forgive them, or I can't forgive this situation ever, because it means I'm condoning it. No, it doesn't mean that. It means you are freeing yourself. You're liberating yourself from being held imprisoned by this. It's one of the most loving things that we can do, and we see it within our country. If you look right now on the world stage, we are part of the macro, but we're also part of the micro. We're also part of the macro. And we see it in the systemic beliefs that we have and that we've held for so many years. You see how history is repeating itself right now, right? This isn't new, what's happening in our world. Of the racism we see, of the xenophobia, of the Islamophobia, of all the phobias and the isms that are out there. It's coming up for us to really heal, to really heal, to really look at what is it that we need to forgive. You know, years ago, it seems like forever now, when I was in Egypt, I was there right after the aftermath, or in the aftermath of the Arab Spring, and there were constant demonstrations and fires burning in the streets, and it was a really scary time. It was quite volatile, and I remember leaving my apartment with all my courage, like, oh, God, I can do this today. And I had people following me, and I had all kinds of just static and noise. And I was in my first year of ministerial class, and I will never forget it, ministerial school, and I was in my apartment just angry. And it was this rage that was coming up within me that I had never known before. Through all these years of study of this teaching, of all these years of working on myself, I did not know what it was about. And yet I allowed it to come up, and my partner at the time was like, you are crazy. What is going on with you? It was this inner child within me that was like screaming, terrified of the conditions of what I was living in. But what was so beautiful about this experience is that it was a reflection of my inner world. It was a reflection of what was going on within me, and so I was able then to transform that experience and see the gift in it that it brought me. Of course, it allowed me to see the rage, the unhealed rage, the shadow of that, and the shame maybe that might have come along with that, but it allowed me to also allow myself to be human and to have compassion for ourselves. And so, one of the greatest authors that I love, his name is Jeff Brown. He wrote a book called Ascending with Both Feet on the Ground. And he says that one of the great challenges of finding your sacred purpose is that it shines a light to those areas of your life that are not alight with the same vibration. When the soul is on fire, it burns through everything that doesn't truly resonate with it, leaving only karmic ash in its wake. This is the upframing nature of a growthful path. That which distracts us from the path, that which doesn't share our new resonance, must shed so that we can continue to evolve. It's not always easy to say farewell to relationship and familiar ways of being, but it comes with the territory. And so as things are shedding, and things are being released, and we're becoming better, and we're evolving, we're becoming more conscious. Of course there's grief, of course there's pain, of course there's chaos and craziness. You know, that's what they call the dark night of the soul, you know, when you're in that void and you don't know what's gonna happen on the other side. As a country, I think we're in a void. But it calls us to go deeper. It calls us to see that what's going on out there in the world of effect is just a reflection of the internal, of what's happening within. The other thing that we get to do to move towards our vision is we get to be really honest with ourselves. And I know this is a hard one. I was recently, I call it the never-ending breakup. I was recently in a breakup, never-ending breakup. That, you can see I can keep saying that over and over again. It was just one of those things where it was like, wait, are we broken up? Are we together? Wait, I think we're broken up now. Like, I think this is over. And it was like, I would say things like, well, no, there's still something for me to learn here from this. Or, but there's still a gift that he's supposed to show me. Or it's just bringing something up right now, and we're supposed to work this out together. You know, I'm sure you've been there, right? Okay. And at some point, when the pain became too great, something happened, something broke. And we both decided to get honest. And that's a really painful thing, because it takes courage, it takes vulnerability, it takes transparency to really get honest with ourselves about what it is that we want, what we need, what we desire, all of those things. And we finally got honest. And it was hard and scary and all those things, but it brought so much clarity, and it was a self-love decision. It was based on a self-care and a self-love decision so that we were no longer holding each other back. Because what we realized is that we were stunting each other's growth. Even with the support and all those things, is that we were not allowing each other the freedom to fly. We sometimes owe each other that. And so moving towards the vision for our lives requires us to get honest. So if you're unhappy because you're not where you want to be, or your health isn't the way that you want it to be, or your relationship isn't right relationship, whatever it may be, or you feel, regrets about your life or where you should be and aren't, all of that stuff that we create in our minds, the stories that we tell, what's beautiful about getting honest with ourselves is that then we are at a choice point. Then we can make a new decision. That's what's so great about this teaching. What if you knew that you could heal? What if you knew that that was possible? Ernest Holmes, in this teaching also says that there's nothing to be healed except truth revealed. And he says that healing takes place only when we are unified with our wholeness. We have to be in right relationship to life. We must know that we are whole. And if you don't know that you're whole, then you can move to gratitude. Because gratitude is the one thing we always have. So if you're not quite feeling whole, what are you grateful for today? What is one thing you can be grateful for? And that's how I moved out of that experience of the never-ending breakup, was to give gratitude for all the gifts that experience gave me. I want you to repeat after me. Potential always exceeds appearance. Potential always exceeds appearance. There is something within you that is greater than any experience that you are seeing right now. Potential always exceeds appearance. It's important for us to master our emotions. And this is a big one for me. Mastering my emotions, skillfully learning to respond to situations rather than reacting. And how many of us react when crisis hits? Yeah, here's a show of hands. Mastering our emotions supports us. Many years ago, I was traveling in Ukraine with a dear friend of mine from Ukraine, and we ended up stranded in the Carpathian Mountains in western Ukraine. And, I should have thought this through, but it was really late at night. It was pouring rain. We had nowhere to go. We didn't get there when we thought we would. He wasn't speaking to me for most of the trip, which really didn't make sense to me. He would only speak to me in Russian, and my Russian was very little, very small then. I didn't know much. And so we ended up in a village, and we stayed with a family there, and they had no electricity or heat. And I remember thinking, how did I get in this situation? And I had one bar on my cell phone. So I texted a friend of mine who actually is from this community here, and he said, "It's okay, you're gonna be okay, it's all right." I was completely freaking out. And we made it through the night. It was a huge learning experience for me, and for 17 hours on the way home, he didn't speak to me. And I ranted, and I got angry, and I screamed at him, and I yelled, and I threw a tantrum, and I did all of the above. And he just looked at me and smiled. And years later, I have come to understand what happened and what that was about. And it was really about me learning to master my emotions, of learning to not react and respond, of learning to reframe the experience of what it is that I wanted to have versus what was actually happening. And so I could have reframed that experience as this really big grand adventure that someday I would be telling to large audiences, as I'm saying right now, of how amazing it was because we survived the night and there was no heat and no hot water and all of that. Sometimes we're called to reframe our experience, to tell a new story, to stop telling the old story that is, brings us in misery and suffering, and that pulls us up into the light. And so he taught me a really beautiful lesson of really learning to master my emotions. Marianne Williamson says that transforming our hearts is a prerequisite for transforming the world. The last thing I want to share with you is that in times like this, it's important for us to keep looking up, to keep our thoughts high, to keep our vibrations high, whatever you like to call that, to surround ourselves with good energy, with good people, to care for ourselves, to be kind to ourselves, to be kind to each other, to remember that we are a family, that we belong to each other. And if you don't feel that way, to practice seeing where you are feeling separate within yourself, to keep moving up. I think it's such a great metaphor, the eclipse, everyone is, right? How many photos are all over social media of people looking up and pointing at the sky? It's important for us to look up. So can I use this experience in my life to further the vision for my life? Can I get really honest with myself about what's not working and what is working? And can I forgive the parts within me that maybe I don't feel that great about? Can I give myself that freedom? Marianne Williamson, in her book, Healing the Soul of America, says, in every area of human endeavor, we see the reflection of a basic spiritual and psychological principle. Where people join, breakthroughs occur. Where we are separate from each other, angry, polarized, and defensive, breakdown and disorder are inevitable. The way to heal social disorder domestically and internationally is to find our spiritual oneness. Nothing short of an internal awakening will heal us. And so let us just turn within for a moment. I want to read you a poem by a really prolific writer who wrote the book, Whatever Arises, Love That. His name is Matt Kahn. So let us just close our eyes now. Take a deep breath. Allowing the words that I have spoken to just settle with you into your subconscious mind. Knowing that the power and the presence of the one life is right where we are. It is the very essence of all things. It is the only thing happening. This power and presence expresses itself in, through, and as all of us here. We surround those that might be affected by the hurricane that has come through this day and last night. We surround all people with love and healing and harmony, knowing that there is divine right action in each one of our lives, knowing that we are guided and supported and nurtured in every way, that wherever we might be feeling separate or lonely, fearful, stuck in lack or limitation, I absolutely declare and know right here, right now, that there is a healing happening, that as I have spoken this word, even before I spoke it, there is something magnificently going on in each one of our lives, and so we claim it this day. We allow ourselves to be in the shadow for however long we need to be there, and we allow ourselves to move into the light, for we need both. And so from the beloved Matt Kahn, in every breath you take, love is always here. Throughout any personal encounter, love is always here. No matter what comes together or whatever is pulled apart, love is always here. In your greatest moment of achievement or even in your darkest hour of uncertainty, love is always here. Whether in the aftermath of tragedy or in the presence of your highest triumph, love is always here. When life is flowing, inspired, and harmonious, and even if it's frustrating, annoying, painful, or inconvenient, love is always here. When you feel alone or unsupported, love is always here. No matter what you understand, and despite what you have yet to figure out, love is always here. No matter what has been done to you, or whatever you believe you've done to others, let us all together say, love is always here. And so we let it be. Amen. Blessings, my blessings to you.